Hello, my name's Jennifer Campbell and I'm a teaching professor in the University of Denver writing program. In this video, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the rhetorical appeal of logos and some of the ways writers and speakers make logical appeals. The rhetorical triangle shows us that all communication is made up of an author speaking to a specific audience about a particular subject. When we look at the classical rhetorical appeals of ethos, pathos, and logos, you see that logos is associated with that subject, the topic or substance of the argument. In ancient Greek, logos means word or speech, so clearly they saw logical appeals as central to discourse. The Roman rhetorician Cicero said, "Reason is the mistress and queen of all things." And we know that within academic writing, logos is prized above the other appeals. So logos refers to logical reasons and explanations, the ways we appeal to the audience's intellect. We can use a wide array of evidence to support logical appeals, such as examples or anecdotes, whether they be from history or from current events. We can also have people share their direct experience through testimony or recorded statements. Empirical evidence consists of research results, statistics, or forensic evidence. There's a wide range of comparisons we can use, such as rhetorical examples, analogies, metaphors, and similes. And finally, graphic representations like video, pictures, graphs, or flowcharts can help an audience to visualize your logical arguments. Most of these are included in the taxonomy of logical proofs from Aristotle's Rhetoric. First, he noted that proofs can be either inartistic, extrinsic proofs that rely on existing facts, common knowledge, or sayings, and artistic, invented proofs that require the rhetor's creativity. For example, a quotation of precedent case law would be an inartistic proof, while a deft application of case law to a current case or an effective hypothetical situation would require the author's skill. Formal logic can get a little complicated, but we mostly use fairly straightforward inductive and deductive reasoning in our writing. And we also can use rhetorical examples, analogies, maxims, and signs, all of which I'll talk about in a moment. But let's start with that logical reasoning. Inductive reasoning moves from specific examples to a generalization or a theory. For example, all of the evidence we have suggests that all people die, so we conclude that people are mortal. Since we have a lot of evidence for this, it would be considered strong induction. If we base conclusions on fewer examples, it's called weak induction. Deductive reasoning works in the opposite direction, applying an existing theory to a particular case. This brings us to a specific type of logical reasoning known as a syllogism. The most famous example is all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. This was proven when he was sentenced to death by hemlock poisoning. That also added more evidence that we're all going to die. The syllogism consists of a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion that must follow. Here's another example. No lazy people get A's. Some students get A's, therefore some students are not lazy. I agree wholeheartedly with the conclusion that some students, and I would say most students, aren't lazy. But I'm not sure about that major premise that no lazy people get A's. You need to note that a syllogism can be logically consistent without being true. This is especially the case if categories are non-exclusive. Sometimes an author will leave one of the premises unstated. That leads us to the enthymeme or truncated syllogism. Here's an example. Nora's a girl, so I know she'll love the pony. There's an unstated major premise that girls love ponies. Nora is a girl, minor premise, and therefore Nora loves ponies. While it may indeed be true that Nora loves ponies, not all girls do, and people of all genders are welcome to. You can also have enthymemes where the minor premise is unstated, such as if you say, kids from other side high cheat a lot, so I don't trust Amanda, you're indicating that Amanda goes to other side high even without stating it directly. And then Campbells like to save money, and I'm married to a true Campbell. Allows me to leave unstated the fact that my husband really likes to save money. Sometimes a claim will be based on multiple underlying assumptions. If someone argues Congress should establish strict emission regulations to slow global warming, they're basing that on several unstated premises, such as global warming exists, it is a problem, it's being made worse by factory emissions, so we need to decrease those, and factory owners aren't going to act if they don't have to, so we need the strict regulations. And slowing global warming is worth it. It's worth the cost or trouble in order to take the action that we're arguing for. Now, you obviously can't have a logical negotiation with someone about the best solutions if you don't agree that the problem exists in the first place. One way that we can demonstrate that something exists or has specific impacts is by presenting examples. Rhetorical examples address specific instances, but unlike the numerous examples that lead to inductive generalizations, they rely on similarities between one specific case and another. These can be real or fictional, and commonly draw on historical examples or well-known stories. For example, one person can make a difference. Rosa Parks crossed the color line to spark the Montgomery bus boycott and drive civil rights forward. There were actually other young women who protested in the same way in the weeks before Parks did, each of them showing a lot of bravery and impacting their communities. But Parks's effort gained media attention and made her the face of the movement. Analogies also compare the current issue to something else in order to help readers visualize or better understand the topic. For example, the middle two panels on this comic were used by the Interaction Institute for Social Change to explain the difference between equal and equitable treatment in social justice work. Others have added panels, like the sides here, that make a stronger argument. And I've even seen parodies that promote self-sufficiency instead. Maxims are well-known sayings or common wisdom. If you're trying to convince a friend to study with you, you might say 2 heads are better than 1. Or maybe you'll try to start a study group because there's strength in numbers or many hands make light work. Similarly, people may point to signs, whether these are traditional associations like where there's smoke, there's fire, or more recent concrete evidence, such as our recent understanding that losing smell and taste is a sign of COVID-19 infection, and increasing unemployment is always a bad sign for the economy. You'll note that this chart and the comic that I used for analogy are visual representations that can also enhance your logical argument. As you construct your own arguments or deconstruct others, you're going to want to keep an eye out for logical fallacies. Just because something's wrong doesn't mean it won't be effective. This is especially true if the audience is already on the bandwagon. That's a reference to the bandwagon fallacy, where you argue that your friend should do something because everybody's doing it. Ad hominem attacks are where you go after someone on a personal level rather than addressing their argument. A straw man fallacy is when you present someone else's argument in an exaggerated way that makes it easy to shoot down, or replaces the actual matter at hand with a different, perhaps related matter. For example, one person argues that we should decriminalize marijuana nationwide, and their opponent says, we can't just allow people to use and sell whatever drugs they want and endanger children. This could lead to a slippery slope argument, where we say, if we legalize marijuana, then people will want to legalize dealing crystal meth and heroin. You can see definitions and examples of many other logical fallacies at yourlogicalfallacyis.com. They also have a nice related site about cognitive biases. In an ideal world, all arguments would be based, at least in part, on facts and logic. Logos is certainly privileged in academic writing, where you'll be asked to analyze the arguments of others and present effective reasoning of your own. If you ever need help seeing reason, feel free to make an appointment with the Writing Center, where their consultants can help you build a better argument.